want to ask me about this, I talk about it because that's what I'm promising. But the one statement I made about this is everything you just said. I said all of this. I outlined it at the time whenever this happened about a year ago now. I said, let me just explain to all you lovely people who are begging me to make a statement. I'm making one statement and I'll never make a statement again. This is exactly what happened. I said exactly what you said. I said, this is all for one thing only, to get back on the show. And people were like, oh my God. Of course, it was denied at the time by the other side, but everything you said is right. It's all to get back on the show, which I just want to stress to everybody listening. Jacqueline, Kathy Wakili, Siggy, let's go down the list. Amber, I love Amber. I'm friends with her. She just did an interview about that they contacted her. That's not true. Jim Leonard has zero ability to get a human being onto this show. After this season, I guarantee you, Bravo wants nothing to do with him anymore. That's what I've heard. Whether Teresa stays or not, that's just what I heard. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. But Jim Leonard has no ability. He does not work for Sirens, and I don't even think they're happy with him anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I feel you. No, I get it. And it's
Like,
true. But
I have no horse in the
anyone,
race. I just feel bad for
anyone,
people.
anyone who was sold the dream that they'll be on full time or, will air a fashion show next season, they just played you. They just wanted to silence you and they got what they wanted because you're no longer talking shit.
And then I don't understand why people listen to these people. Like, there's other podcasts too. Like, why would you listen to a podcast or a page that has such a slant? I don't get it. I just don't get it. I never get it.
Yeah.
I mean, people
Yeah.
listen to me and they're like, you're a flip flopper. Yes, I take all the facts week by week. And
Yeah.
when Margaret, who, I mean, we're not having a kumbaya moment, when she sends a funeral arrangement of flowers, I don't really care if it was producer's idea, who's hers idea. I'm like, brilliant move, Margaret. That is your swan song. If you never come back to this show, that to me is one of the most iconic
Wow.
moments in history of RHONJ. Brilliant,
And they
Margaret.
aired it. And they aired
Yeah.
it when we talked about it here. And you know what? That was such a badass move. That took over that scene. It really did. That made that scene. Also, I mean, she really did go out towards the end of the season, Margaret, when she sends the text to Dolores and Joe Benigno's pointing to the phone. Those are going to be top housewife moments of all time.
Yeah, I mean, I think if Margaret is not there, she will love. I mean, again, this is why you listen to me, because I don't really have a horse in the race in the real world. Margaret and I are not exactly going to dinner and breaking bread, but she will go down as one of the great housewives of RHONJ when you go down the list of whose name you remember,
Yeah,
right?
I don't. Yeah,
Melissa.
I don't recall such a moment ever in housewife history.
And
That
when
was
I
top
say
tier
things like this,
housewives.
people say, oh, you're back on Margaret's payroll. I was never on Margaret's payroll, but like you, I just say what you want. I wish I was on someone's payroll. I really do wish at times, but
Yeah,
then we'd have to compromise this
yeah,
podcast.
yeah,
What else? Anything else happening tonight? Like any other, like what else
yeah. So
happened tonight?
let me just go down. And then we talked about this before, but let me just go down the list on how it all plays out based off of Jen's and Teresa's notes. So, we did, and again, we touched on this, but it's just good to like refresh everybody in case they do show it or they don't. And I have seen, as long as you and everyone else, some of the little previews. So some of this stuff is in there. I don't know if it all will make the cut, but let me just break it down. So Jennifer did tell me that they all go to the luncheon at Rails, and Jen starts going in on how she doesn't like Danielle's like characteristics, how she's using people, and she's got this diva mentality. So they start bickering. They talk about how like they throw jabs at each other about how no one's at your parties and no one is ever, like something about Jen's followers. Like they do like this petty back and forth, Danielle and Jen. And it's not until Jen starts going in about Danielle's kids' parties, how no one's there. And so, like, the moment Danielle hears about her kids, like, she starts flipping out. And then, boom, Jen drops well, you wear the bra and your man's got the boobs, your husband's got the boobs. And Danielle goes to pick up a plastic pitcher, not glass, plastic. And Jen Aydin made it very clear to me Sirens Media provided the pictures that day on the table. So sometimes, and we said this last time, David, sometimes during these scenes, production brings in props to like make the scene nicer, whether it's like couch pillows or a throw or flowers. Like sometimes they pretty up the scenes where they film it. So according to Jen Aydin, production during the Rails luncheon provided these plastic pitchers. They filled them with sliced lemon ice water. So boom, she's told her husband has boobs, which again, you guys, is such a like hypocrisy on Jen Aydin's part. Number one, her husband's a plastic surgeon. That's how she gets to live in that castle. So to shame someone over someone receiving a cosmetic surgery is bullshit. And number two, Bill Aydin himself had a gynecomastia surgery to reduce his breast size. So for Jen Aydin to use that insult to hurt Danielle is like hypocrisy on every level. Anyway, the pictures were plastic. They were not glass. Danielle picks one up. The condensation on the pitcher on the outside causes the pitcher to slip out of her hands. So for all those rumors we heard, like a violent scene got cut, we are not going to get to see Danielle throw a glass pitcher at Jen. That's all bullshit, guys. It was not glass. It was plastic. She didn't throw it at her. It slipped out of her hands. When it did slip out of her hands, David, and Jen Aydin told me this herself, that the pitcher hits her salad plate that's in front of her and her martini glass, and it gets all over her hair, all over her shirt, all over her skirt, and the salad goes everywhere. The martini glass does fall and hit the ground along with the wine glass that was set up at their place settings or whatever. Those break. Don't know what happened to the pitcher. And boom, they start going back and forth. Danielle's like, you're a fucking animal, like talking shit. Jen's pointing to producers, pointing to the door, and like, get her the fuck out of here. I want her gone. Danielle's like, I don't care if I get fired. I'm not leaving. Danielle refuses to leave. And then boom, per Teresa's notes, she turns to Danielle and she's like, why would you do that? I don't like that you just did that. You threw all this stuff on her or whatever. And then boom, Melissa Gorga jumps in and she's like, she learns from the best, white trash. Like, because Teresa's a table flipper. And anyway, so then that's when we see, and we did see this in the preview, whore. All Teresa starts to do once Melissa addresses Teresa is she calls her a whore over and over again. And Teresa did tell me Melissa was starting to bring up her kid, how nice that you're calling me a whore. I'm going to tell my kids or whatever. And Teresa's like, I didn't give a fuck. I should have told her she was a whore when we talked about Nick Baroda. Like, Teresa was like relentless. Like, she's done with Melissa. She's going to tell her how she really feels. So she continues to call Melissa a whore. Danielle is still screaming. And Teresa did tell me that, and we saw this in the preview, that Rachel was like, stop, enough, because Melissa and Teresa started going at it. So it's a whole shit show too, David, because Teresa was like, Gabriela, I was like, what's going on? Because it just goes from 0 to 100 in like a second. Anyhow, so they all start, going back and forth. Jen's cleaning up her hair. And Teresa tells me that and I remember when she told me this, David, she's like, can we please make sure we fucking get her ass? She says white trash. Teresa wanted us to go after Melissa Gorga on social media for saying white trash. But I told her, Teresa, we can't do that because in Nashville, when you threw all that shit on Margaret, you were calling her white trash. Because Teresa was like, that's racist. When we see that scene, I need you guys to call Melissa racist. And I was like, we can't, because you said it to Margaret when you pushed all that shit on her. So, that just goes to show you guys too, Teresa's mentality. Like, she wanted social media to attack her own sister-in-law. But anyway, so then,
So I have a question first.
yeah,
Why is it so right? It was a plastic pitcher. You're saying production put it there. Yeah, sometimes they put blankets and pillows, and so it slipped. The glass is on Jennifer. So when we see the glass in the preview, you think it's those glasses? Did
the
production put
glasses.
glass there? I mean, I assume it's the
Um,
glasses.
no, it's the martini glass and wine glass. And I think even the salad plate broke when it hit the ground, but I don't think it was a pitcher because Jen said it was plastic.
And so when Jennifer and Teresa told you, or I guess Jennifer at that time, because you were in their camp, did Jennifer say this like, oh, it's a plastic pitcher?
Yeah, she said it was plastic. Now, she made that very clear to me. So I don't know who was out there trying to say it was glass. And it's so funny how they were like, oh, per the OK Magazine article, a violent scene was cut. No, It wasn't. There was no violent scene. I would say what was a little more violent was the plastic cup getting smashed on her head. But again, like, who's ragging about violent scenes getting cut? We saw Teresa freaking throw all that shit on the table at Margaret. We've seen her tell Danielle pull her hair. Like, Bravo was not going to cut something like that out. So the fact that they're making a big deal tells me it's coming from Jen Aydin's camp.
Like
Like
you
the fact
think
that that was
they're
even
putting it
leaked.
out there to OK Magazine, which obviously then it gets picked up everywhere if it's in
Yeah, I
OK.
think someone in that camp is pushing the violent scene getting cut to make Danielle look bad. And I'm seeing